What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 60 of Walker Talk Live. And today we are going to take a look at some of the games that are happening this weekend. Of course, it is the regional finals for 2A through 6A, the state semis for 1A, and the championships for TAPS. But before we get into all of that, I have to bring in Shana. Just Shana today. Shana, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to focus on this week and see all of the excitement that's going to happen. I have so many things to talk about today. I'm sure you do too. So I'm doing great.
Yeah, and as we come to the end of football season, there is basketball going on, and so we'll start talking about that slowly. Most likely after football finishes up here in the next couple of weeks. And that's kind of right when basketball kind of ramps up. I mean, they're kind of in that season right now where heck, some teams are not even at full strength if you really look at it because some of these teams, especially for those that are still left in the playoffs, their kids are still playing football, and so once that's over, they'll transition to basketball. So it's hard to really get a grip on some of these teams right now because some of them aren't at full strength. Some of them are just now getting at full strength as athletes transition over from one sport to another. You really start getting a good firm a look at what some of these teams can do once kind of January rolls around. So we'll get into that as the football season comes to a close. But we do have some games to talk about. Of course, if you have some that we're not talking about, if you've seen our Twitter, we pointed out the ones we're talking about. So if you want us to talk about one, let us know here in the comments on YouTube, and we'll definitely get to those. But let's start off with the Lone Taps game that we'll talk about, and that's Second Baptist taking on Dallas Christian. Of course, as we know, Dallas Christian lost on that last second heartbreaking pick six as time expired last year to Regents. Second Baptist has beaten Regents, so taking care of that for Dallas Christian, and now Dallas Christian looks to kind of get over that hump, if you will. Both teams are kind of looking for a state championship after a long drought. As we know, Second Baptist hasn't won since '99. Dallas Christian hasn't won since 2008. So both going over a decade without winning a championship. Shana, talk to me about this game a little bit.
It's going to be really exciting. Like you said, losing on a pick six is something that's really heartbreaking, and it's going to set you up for a strong season ahead. You're going to want to not really prove to others, but really prove to yourself that that things happen. You can get right back on the horse and keep riding into the sunset. Luke Carney has been exceptional as a freshman quarterback for Dallas Christian. He's thrown for nearly 1,900 yards and 21 touchdowns. Then you have senior Jalil Brown, who has scored 24 rushing touchdowns on the season, 7 receiving touchdowns on the season, and has almost 2,000 total yards, if not 2,000 total yards. The offense has been unreal, and they're going to be a really tough one to stop. Now, not only that, but their defense has taken only minor bruising all season long. As we know, their only loss this season has been to Trinity Christian Addison. Kind of a tough loss for them, but I think it's something that they've really learned from. Now, you also have Second Baptist. They've played an incredible season. They're an incredible team. But if you take a look at their recent history, they've posted much closer games, and it's going to be really interesting to see how their team has regrouped and prepared for a really strong Dallas Christian who definitely wants this win.
And you kind of look at that, Trinity Christian lost, and you're like, kind of a little bit of a head scratch for Dallas Christian. Until you kind of look at TCA, and you're like, well, they're the TAPS League champion. There's not like, they were a 9-2 team, won the TAPS League championship. So it's not like there's some pushover, if you will. So, so it's not as much of a head scratching loss as maybe people might think. So, and then you go look at Second Baptist's losses. They lost to Kincaid, who was the SPC champion, and they lost to Fort Bend Christian, who they avenged that loss last week. So both these teams to me are on fire right now, it's really just going to come down. For me, I think you mentioned it. Freshman quarterback Luke Carney is really going to be, if he keeps on playing the way he's playing. Dallas Christian has a really good chance to walk away with this one. And then I think on the other side, it's how well can the Second Baptist defense do. So I think it's going to come down to the offense of Dallas Christian versus the defense of Second Baptist. That will probably ultimately decide this one. Looking at this game, who would you say is the favorite?
You know, I want to say Dallas Christian to me is the favorite. They've had a strong season. Luke Carney, I'm not gonna say he's unstoppable because he's a freshman. He has some growing to do, but he is a darn good freshman. I picked Dallas Christian as the favorite here.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. They do have one common opponent, by the way. I mean, Fort Bend Christian is a common opponent that, Fort Bend Christian, that Dallas Christian, he's kind of easily handled. And like we know, Second Baptist, they lost once to him and won once to him, and only won by 1 point, which was a missed extra point attempt. So you kind of, if you look at common opponent that way, you kind of think, okay, well, Dallas Christian has the edge. Obviously they were there last year. So they're going to be a little more motivated. Not to say that Second Baptist won't be motivated getting to this point trying to win one since '99. So I think I also give the edge to Dallas Christian in this one. Any last thoughts on this game, Shana?
Not for me. I think it's just going to be really exciting, regardless who wins. It's going to be big for both teams.
Yeah, completely agree there. Sorry, doing always working behind the scenes while you or Scott talk when you're on the show. So sometimes if there's that silence, that's why. But let's move on to our next game here, and let's go down to the 2A ranks. And this is for me. This is for me personally. This is probably the game of the week. It's happening tonight. It's Shiner. It's Refugio. It's kind of the battle for revenge for Refugio. It's the quest for the repeat for Shiner, trying to get that state title for the second year of the row. 4th straight year that these two teams have met in the playoffs, and 2 of those years, the last 2, whoever has won this game has won the state title. Talk to us a little bit about this one, Shana.
I was looking at this earlier, and I'm just like, how do we get to this point in the season and have 2 teams that are undefeated playing against each other? Excellent coaching and tremendous talent is the answer. Shiner has played hard and tough against every single opponent they have faced this season. I think Shiner especially is always willing to go the distance, go above and beyond, and do whatever it takes to pull wins out of even thin air if they have to. Their defense has allowed only 94 points. They have a strong offense, and they really get the job done. On the other hand, Refugio is kind of like a 2A unstoppable team in the recent years. They have plenty of rings and plenty of diamonds in those rings to prove that point. They've been known for posting like basketball scores against their opponents while leaving their opponents with goose eggs. They posted, I think, 7 shutout this season, and their defense has only allowed 84 points, which, is kind of evenly matched with Shiner. It's going to be a really strong defensive game. I think it's going to be an absolute showdown. How about you?
Yeah, this one's an interesting one just from the fact that, for the most part, it's always hard to tell with these teams when you look at their districts, and it's kind of like it's always hard to tell because of the districts they play in sometimes. To give like Shiner some credit. I mean, they went out and they played they played Poth, the 3A school, who's in the regional finals themselves. So and they beat them quite handedly. So that helps them. Because when you get to, like I said, when you get kind of to their district, it's like, okay, well, it's not that difficult for either of these teams in their districts to kind of make their way to the playoffs. So sometimes having those early games or early non-district games where you're playing some tougher competition can be beneficial. And I think that might help Shiner out this year. You look at their scores. Most for they're kind of similar, right? They're blowing their teams out. They're winning by wide margins. Really. Hallettsville and Davenport were Shiner's kind of closest games. And those were 2-score games each. So, but credit to Shiner for playing those teams. Davenport's not no pushover. They're probably going to be, I think, a 4A or a 5A school, I believe, because I think they started the last year, so I think they're not really aligned to a division yet. They're kind of in that wonky division with like what is it, Lake Belton or whatever, where there's no they're not in a division yet because they're a new school. But I think they're, well, they could be a 3A. I think it's 3A or 4A, so still kind of right up there. And then you look at kind of Refugio's schedule, and I mean they played George West, but compared to like Poth, it's a little bit of a different kind of game there. Their closest game looks like to be against Edna, which was a 17-point win. So other than that, it's kind of the same as China, right? Blow out. So it's really hard to know, and I think it's going to be who can come out and punch the other team in the chin first. If I'm being honest, neither of these teams have really faced adversity this year, and so it's if you get punched in the mouth first and you can't respond to that adversity, I think that's gonna be kind of a telling trend of how this game ends up going. So you kind of have to give it to Shiner. I think just looking at some of their schedules and who they played earlier in the year, state champions back to back. I would favor Shana or Shiner in this one. Shana, I don't know if did you give your pick on this one? Who are you favoring?
I didn't give my pick on this one. I have to favor Refugio here. They're a strong team, and I think that they really want it as usual. But that's not to discredit Shiner. Shiner has been outstanding, and I think their defense might have a little bit more up their sleeve than Refugio it can imagine.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. This is definitely, like I said, it's the game to watch. So if if you're not going to be like me, obviously I'm going to be watching the Cowboys game tonight. So if you're not me, someone like me who's going to be watching the Cowboys game, definitely tune into that one, or just follow along. I'll be following that one just from score wise. So definitely check out that game tonight. Moving on, we'll go to the San Antonio, Austin area. We got Brennan, we got Lake Travis. Lake Travis is on a 17-game winning streak when it comes to playoff games against San Antonio schools. The last San Antonio school to beat Lake Travis was in 2004, and that was Alamo Heights. So it's been ages since a team has beaten Lake Travis. But this is the first meeting between these two squads. Brennan and Lake Travis never played. Brennan's a fairly new school. I think it was late 2000s, early 2010 kind of time frame where Brennan was formed. They just recently kind of moved their way up to the 6A. I mean, their lone state title appearance was in 4A, so it tells you how quickly that school has grown there in San Antonio. Lake Travis is looking to kind of get back after, kind of a down few years, if you will, for Lake Travis. And they have this San Antonio team that's kind of hungry. Talk to us about this one, Shana.
When I was growing up, Lake Travis was an absolute dynasty. They have had a couple of down years, but I think, I really think this is their season to really show who they are. They are Lake Travis, and they want to prove that to not only their fans, but everybody else's fans. But I think going up against a really strong San Antonio Brennan is going to be a true test for them. Brennan has been an incredible force. Like you said, they've truly been growing. But defensively, especially, they've put up a really strong front. I think that's going to be Lake Travis' biggest challenge in the game. I'm excited to see how Lake Travis fares against a really strong Brennan defense. My pick for this is Lake Travis. But regardless, it's going to be an amazing game, and Brennan is going to put up some really big plays.
Yeah, I think outside of obviously Kay Klubnik, I don't think Lake Travis has seen a quarterback like Ashton Dubois. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle him after watching how kind of Cade just tore them up when Westlake and Lake Travis played to end the regular season. I'm gonna go. I think Brennan has a really good shot in this one. I think they're playing really good football right now. Really hot. The quarterback, Ashton DuBose. I think it might be DuBose. He is on fire right now. And I think if Lake Travis can't stop him, it's gonna be a really good game. And you know what? I think Brennan can do it. I think Brennan can end this 17-year winning streak against San Antonio teams in the playoffs, and send Brennan to the state semis. So that's my kind of upset pick, if you will, for the week. So moving on to our next one. Unless you have anything you want to add to this on this one, Shayna?
No, I'm just over here smiling because we're doing that thing where we pick against each other.
Well, you got to keep things interesting a little bit, and I think Lake Travis is an easy pick, and hey, you can easily see them, in the state championship game where they'll play, Allen, South Lake Carroll, Duncanville, one of those teams. Maybe DeSoto. We'll see. Hey, DeSoto has a fighting chance, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. Next up, we got Hightower and Paetow. As we know. It's hard to beat a team twice in a season, right? So Hightower's coming into this game having done that because they beat Manville in the regular season and they beat them last week in the playoffs. But now they have to play Paetow for the second time, and as we know, that first time they played, it was not a close contest. Paetow absolutely destroyed Hightower 55-7. Do you think that this is going to be more of the same, or do you think Hightower is going to have more of a fighting chance, come out more fighting this time around, and have a better showing and possibly win this one?
So I definitely think that Hightower is going to come out and have a better showing than their last meeting. I don't quite think that they're going to win this one, though. Paetow's offense has been the real deal, and not only that, they're backed up by an incredible defense. Don't get me wrong, Hightower, they're tough. They're going to put up a challenge. But you have gosh, what's their quarterback's name? Pinson, right? Who's thrown? No, that's Hightower's quarterback. But I mean, either way, you have like a strong offense in Paetow who has put up the numbers, put up the wins, and they've worked really hard to get to this point. And I think we're going to see them complete the season. Maybe even with a state title. Hightower's quarterback, he's been phenomenal. He's going to put up a fight, and he's going to do everything in his power to encourage the team to put up a strong game against the team that blew them out earlier this season. I don't think Hightower will pull the win, but I definitely think it's going to be a much closer game than anybody's expecting.
I don't know. I feel like Paetow is just on a roll right now, and I feel like I think we're going to see more of the same. I mean, Paetown's averaging 50 points per game. I mean, their loss was to Manville, so Hightower took care of them for them. So they don't have to see Manville again. And now they've just been cruising through the playoffs. Now, that's to say that they've been cruising through the playoffs. That's always, you always worry about teams that cruise through the playoffs because what happens when they face adversity? Like we're going to find out, like I said earlier with Shana and Refugio. One of these teams is going to face adversity. How are they going to handle that? I think same thing here. If Hightower can maybe jump out to an early lead, how's Paetow going to handle that? Are they going to be able to come back from that? So, it's all about that kind of unknown right now. And for Paetow, it's what's going to happen in these playoffs when they do face some adversity. Because if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I think all of their let me look it up here, but I think all of their playoff wins have been kind of nice and easy and breezy and all that. So let's take a look at their playoff wins here. So 54-0, 58-22, 65-14. So not much room to sweat there. It's pretty nice easy wins. So if Hightower can kind of push them a little bit, what's going to happen there? So I right now Paetow is giving me no reason to not trust them, to not absolutely move on to at least the state championship. If I was a bet man, I think you'll see them in the state championship right now. So, any last comments on that one, Shana?
No, I just think that one's going to be really fun to watch unfold.
We will see. That one could be a good one. I'm leaning more towards kind of some similar. Similar scores last time. And then finally, the one of the games that we have kind of picked to talk about, Duncanville versus DeSoto. Duncanville is one of the last three meetings, including last year's playoffs and this year's regular season matchup. Duncanville kind of switched it up from last year. Last year, they kind of relied on their passing game. This year, they're kind of more on the running game. I mean, against DeSoto, they rushed for 349 yards. I think only passed for 44. So, they obviously saw something that they liked against DeSoto and utilized it. And so it's like, are they going to use more of the same or maybe try and switch it up and keep DeSoto off guard? Duncanville only allowing 16 points per game in the playoffs so far. What do you think about this one? You think Duncanville's we're going to see them in the state semis next week?
To me, this is the game to watch this in the entire state this weekend. I think a lot of people are sleeping on DeSoto's talent in this game. Don't get me wrong, Duncanville, absolutely phenomenal. And we talked on a little bit on Monday about whether or not people were sleeping on Duncanville throughout the season. But after seeing how this week has gone and how the chatter has kind of laid out before everybody talking the upcoming games, I think a lot more people are sleeping on DeSoto. You have Duncanville. If they win, they'll make the state semifinals for the fourth consecutive season. But then you have DeSoto, who's trying to make the state semifinals for the first time since 2016 when they actually won the state title. DeSoto is strong. You have John Tay Cook, who's a four-star wide receiver, who's ranked ninth best wide receiver in the nation for his class. Not only that, but you have Henley Jr., who was an absolute key playmaker in last week's win over an undefeated Spring Westfield. But on Duncanville's end, you have Malachi Medlock, who scored 5 touchdowns in 3 playoff games. He's an outstanding athlete, but you can't tell me that DeSoto hasn't spent all week studying him, looking for any weaknesses that he might have on the field. Granted, Duncanville's defense is going to put up a really, really strong fight against DeSoto's offense. They've only allowed 16 points in the playoffs, and they're going to be a wall. But DeSoto's, I don't think DeSoto's going to be able to climb over it. They're going to have to find a way around it. It's going to be an incredible game. Not only all of that, but like you said, it's a rematch. DeSoto fell 35-21. It was a very strong game on both ends of the ball. And I think DeSoto really wants to show DFW and the entire state that they've grown, they've regrouped, and they can chalk Duncanville as well as everybody who's voting against DeSoto here.
Sorry, you picking DeSoto then?
I'm picking DeSoto, yeah.
That's interesting. I think you can't forget though, Duncanville is still trying to escape those demons from kind of 3 years ago. I mean, they were a Hail Mary away from winning the state title. They get back the next year and they lose to North Shore again. Of course, albeit with their quarterback who was out. I think it was the state semis where he suffered that ACL injury, and so they weren't playing at full strength. And last year, I think they were kind of looking ahead. And South Lake Carroll got him. So there's I think there's a lot of motivation on this Duncanville squad to get back to that. Even the state semis where they can possibly face South Lake Carroll again. To me, it's like I've been on this bandwagon of people have been sleeping on Duncanville, right? I mean, you look at their first game, it's like, oh man, they got blown out. You kind of just put them aside, right? You just go. Right, and that's kind of what happened with Duncanville, and then from there they just kind of did what they do, right, in Texas high school football, which is dominate. And so, I think people are starting to realize, oh, well, Duncanville is actually just kind of who we thought they were. But they, when you play the number one team in the nation, sometimes that's going to happen where the game's not that close. So, especially in game one of the season. So I think if running backs Malachi, Medlock, and Caden Durham, if they can have their big games again, I think it's going to be more of the same. I'm going with Duncanville in this one. I think they're going to be a little too much for DeSoto. So go Duncanville is what I'm saying on this one. So any last thoughts or any other games you want to talk about, Shana?
Not quite in the depth, but I think obviously you have the big one, South Lake versus Allen. But I think something to keep your eye on here is Prosper versus Denton Geyer. It's another rematch. Prosper, and I don't want to say they're like quite Scott's team of destiny, but Prosper, I think that big win over Allen has really powered them through the playoffs. And I think we're going to see a big game from Prosper. I don't know if they'll beat Denton Geyer. Denton Geyer is an absolutely strong team, and they want to get back to the state finals. They want to win the state finals. But I think this is going to be a really exciting game. And if you are not going to Duncanville, DeSoto, you need to go to Prosper, Denton Geyer, if you're in the DFW area.
Yeah, another one that's going to be interesting is obviously Westlake and Vandegrift. I think we're about to see really how good this Westlake team is. I mean, outside of Lake Travis, they really haven't faced anyone in the last kind of month or so. So it's really going to be interesting to see how I think if Westlake wins this game easily, they're well. Of course, they still got Katy around the corner there, but I mean, they've shown no signs of kind of slowing down, if you will. So it's going to be an interesting game to keep an eye on as well. Lots of good games happening. Like I said, if you're able to get yourself in front of a TV, and watch some football. We'll have a few games on ours. I think a few even video casts. I think Lago Vista, you'll be able to watch that one on our website. Poth and Franklin, you'll be able to watch that one on our website. So a couple that you'll be able to watch. That we got the rights to stream. So definitely check out some of those games and go to those. You can find the other ones on various other websites, streaming websites. So if you haven't yet, definitely get yourself prepared to watch those games. Folks, we're almost at the state championship, so you got to get yourself in front of that TV, watch some of these games. They're going to be some good ones going down. Shana, before we get out of here today, go ahead and tell some people where they can find some good stuff for the DFW area.
You're going to want to go to Twitter and follow at VYPE and then again on Instagram at VYPE_DFW. We have lots of highlights coming out. We have a lot of exciting coverage happening, especially with playoff football. Basketball, like Wax said earlier in the show, basketball's heating up. It's gearing to go. We also have basketball highlights already coming out. Be sure you are following us and keeping up with all the fresh content.
And of course, anything Austin San Antonio related, like the ATX, VYPE, SATX, don't have as much coverage as we maybe do for Houston DFW, but we also don't have a writer in this area, so that's one of the big reasons there. And of course, Houston is VYPE Houston. We try to do the show right now. We're about twice a week right now. That's just because of things like I said, things are slowing down a little bit. I think we're going to try and move to Monday, Wednesday, Friday once football season's over for basketball stuff. Got a lot of good stuff coming up, so definitely stay tuned for that. And hey, when we come back on probably Monday, we'll probably be back on Monday next week. So when we're back next week, we'll have the state semis set in stone. We'll have some TAPS champions to talk about, and the state champions to talk about for 1A, because those will be decided this week. So until then, I'm Wack, and that's Shana, and this has been Locker Talk Live. And hey, if you're not watching the games on TV, you should go to the games. And if you're at the games, we'll see you there. Have a good one, everyone.